Hello folks, I'm an English author. My name is Brian Bennett. I've written a book called A Badsey and I'm going to do my best to try and make you laugh. I'm going to start off with two stories about my brother. My brother passed 20 years ago, but I love my brother and I still miss him to this day. But I've got two funny stories about him. I want to picture the scene. It's June the 16th in England. That's the start of our fishing season on the rivers. It's 5:30 in the morning and we wanted to go and fish our two favourite pegs. We wanted to get there before anybody else. So we're walking across this field and we can see the river in the distance. And the mist is rolling along the river and it's all foggy and it looks horrible, but it's going to be a lovely hot day. We get to the first gate and we go through the gate and we're walking across the field. And what we've got to do is get to the next gate and then our pegs are just past the gate. Well, we get halfway across this field and it's dead quiet. It's thick fog. You can't see anything. It's silent. And all of a sudden we hear... I looked to my brother, I said, I don't like the sound of that, kid. He said, neither do I. So we take a few more steps and we hear... I said, kid, I'm off. So there's a hedge running along the right hand side of the field. I know in this hedge there's a 5-bar gate somewhere. So we ran to the hedge and we could hear this rumbling behind us. It's like bloody thunder coming across this field. We're running as fast as we could. Get to this 5-bar gate and I'm over the top like Linford Christie, never even stood to the top. My brother's about 2 seconds behind me and as he's going through the air, this ball is at the gate. Bang! It's hit it so hard, it's bent the gate. It's stood there. There's snot and there's flames and there's steam coming out of his nose. His eyes are rolling and he's dragging gripping clumps of earth out the ground. And he's grunting and growling. I get myself up and look at my brother and he's all tangled up in his box. And the strap is round his neck. So I go and untangle my brother. And we stood looking at this bull and this thing's like 20 foot tall. It's about 47 stone. And my brother looked at me and said, bloody hell, kid. I said, what's up, mate? He said, I wish I had a pair of bollocks like that. Sorry. Anyway, the next story, he phoned me up on Saturday morning. He says, kid, what are you doing? I said, nothing. Why? He said, we're going pike fishing. We've never been pike fishing before. We didn't know anything about it. I said, why is that then? He said, I've been watching Matt Hayes on the TV. He's told me how to do it. So I said, fair enough. So he come and picked me up in his car. Got off to the tackle shop. Bought some wire traces. Some copper spoons. That's all we had back then was copper spoons. So off we go to this bit of river in Pershore. We tied these things up and I said, what do we do with them then? And he told me how to do it. I said, well, I'll go this way and you go that way. So he said, fair enough. So I'm going out there and I'm chucking this thing and reeling it in. And it's quiet and it's sunshine and it's peaceful. And all of a sudden I hear, kid! So I reeled in, I'm going running along the road. Linford Christie again. I'm doing running along the road, my fishing rod. Along the bank. I gets to my brother and sure enough the rod's bent over and he's got this pike on. And he said, get the net. So I get the net. And between us we get this thing in the net and it's huge. You know, fisherman's tail, it's about... but this thing was massive. So we get this thing on the bank and we stood looking at it. I said, what do we do now then? He said, well, we've got to get the hooks out. I said, how do we do that? He said, well, Matt Hayes had this thing that opened his mouth. And then he had these long tweezers that he reached and he got the hooks out. I said, have we got any of them? He said, no. I said, what are we going to do then? He said, I'll tell you. I'll get it between my legs. I'll hold its mouth open. You put your hand in, get the hooks out. I said, piss off. I said, have you seen all them teeth in that thing? And there's millions of teeth, and they're all facing backwards. And they're white and they're sharp. He said, it'll be okay, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. I said, kid, I'm not putting my hand inside that fucking thing. He said, mate, he said, trust me. He said, I'm telling you, it'll be fine. I said, if you're sure. So he gets this thing between his legs, and he's opened his mouth like that. And I'm looking at this thing, and I put my hand in its mouth, and it was fine until I touched the hooks. As soon as I touched the hooks, this thing's gone mad. It started flapping. My brother's gone over backwards. And I've got this thing on my hand, and it's ripping me, and it's flapping and flopping, and it's all over the place. It's hitting the ground, and it's jumping up and down, and ripping chunks of skin out my hand, and oh, God. There's blood and there's snot, everything. I'm trying to get it off, get it off. And my brother jumped on it. And this thing is clamped onto my hand, and there's blood and snot everywhere. So he prizes this pike's mouth open, and my hand's just torn to bits. So he wrapped it in a towel. I said, what do we do now then? He said, well, he said, we've got to get the... He said, I was going to kill it anyway. He said, so we may as well just kill it, and I'll take it over and try and eat it. I looked at my brother, so what do you mean we're going to kill it? He said, well, I was going to kill it anyway. I said, well, why didn't we kill it before I put my hand in its mouth? I never thought of that, he said. So, kills this pike, takes it home. Off we go to A&E. So it goes into A&E, and there's blood seeping through the towel, and I goes in, and this nurse is pulling all these teeth out of my hand, and she puts all these butterfly stitches on the cuts, and it's a nightmare. And she bandaged it all up, and I stood up to go. She said, where are you going? I said, I finished, haven't I? She said, nah, you got to have a tetanus injection. She said, drop your trousers. Well, I'll tell you, she stuck this needle in my bum, and the pain from that was worse than anything that the pike did. So goes out, and I goes home. A few days later, I saw my brother. I said, what was your pike like, mate? He said, God, it was horrible. He said, it was disgusting. He said, it was so bad, the cats wouldn't even eat it. There's a bloke called Ben Drake, a very good friend of mine. He invited me down to Newbury to give a talk on fishing. And he said, I'll put you up, mate. He said, I'll put you up, I'll feed you. He said, don't bring any money. Your money's no good down here. He said, just turn up and everything's sorted. So I turned up at his house. He'd got a lovely house, its own lake, everything. I pulled into his yard, 4 Alsatians, one at each door. I went to open the door, and I thought, get out of there, so I blow the horn. He come out and he called the dog. He said, what's the matter with you? I said, I ain't getting out with them things there. He said, oh, they're fine. He said, don't worry about them. He said, they're fine, they ain't gonna hurt you. So he goes in, he takes me up to my room, and we sat down and we had stew and dumplings, and we've gone off to the talk, and I've given the talk, and we're sat on the cider, and you know it is. It's Brian Bennett. He knows a lot of stories. I've had a few ciders. I'm sat in the corner telling stories. And I got all these blokes in fits of laughter. Gets home from this evening about 2 o'clock in the morning. I goes up to my room. I'd been in bed about 20 minutes. God, I wanted a wee. God, I wanted a wee. So I go to the door. Open the door. 4 Alsatians in a line. I open the door and they've all stood up. I shut the door. I thought, quiet, fucking going out of there. So I'm looking. I thought, I've got to have a piss. Where am I going to have a wee? I've looked round and I can't find a sink. I can't find anything to have a wee in. So I thought, right, open the window. Stand on a chair. Out the window. Oh, the relief. The relief was magical. 4 times during the night, I got my out the window, Next morning, gets up, big fire breakfast, beautiful. They thanked me profusely for going down and doing what I'd done, and I had a brilliant time. I walked outside the door to go home. I looked down and there's all the dog's dishes there, and each one of them was full of green cider wee. Revenge was mine. Now this story is true. It was going back to, it must have been about 1972, 73. Everybody in England then was more or less on strike. My brother and my father were both on strike. The only money coming into the house was my older sister. And it was coming up to Christmas. We've got no money, we've got no food, we've got nothing for Christmas dinner. Well, I used to go do a lot of shooting, so I was always out with my shooting bag. I was collecting cabbages and sprouts and whatever I could find was going in the bag when I was out shooting. I used to shoot ducks and pheasants, whatever I could. And I kept walking past this field with all these turkeys in. And there was hundreds, there was literally hundreds of these turkeys. And they used to follow you as you walked past. They used to follow you down the edge. So I gets to the brook where the fence from this field runs along the side of the brook. I'm leaning against the gate looking at these turkeys. I thought, I reckon I'm going to have me one of these. So the next time I went past, I'd got 2 pieces of bread and I started chucking this bread in for these turkeys. They loved it. Kept pecking, having this bread. I thought, right, I've got a plan. So the next day, I goes down to this fence by the brook, over the fence, and I've got a pair of bolt cutters. I've cut some strands in the wire fence. The holes in the fence were about 4 inches, and I cut 3 of them, so there was like a gap of about a foot. So I did that, and then the next day I went down with some bread, and I'd got this string, thick string, and I pulled this wire down so there was a big gap in the fence. Hung this string off the wire with a loop in. Put some bread this side, both sides, that side first and this side, and I lay on the bank. Now you got to take it into consideration. I'm 13 years old, right? I'm not very big. I'm not very strong, but I've got a plan. So I lay on the side of the bank by this fence, and I'm watching these turkeys, and they're getting closer and closer and closer, and they start eating this bread, and one's getting a bit brave, and he stuck his head through this loop to get to the bread. I yanked on this loop, this string. The loop's closed around this turkey's neck, and it's squawking, and I've got hold of it in both hands, and I'm pulling it. I've pulled it through this hole in the thing, and it's flapping, and it's fucking huge. Its wings are flapping. It's squawking, and I'm hanging on to it for dear life. I've gone over backwards, straight into the ice cold brook, spur loose, and I've got this turkey, and it's trying to take off with me. And I've eventually got my arms around it, and I've held its head under the water, and it's kicking, and there are all these bubbles coming up, and eventually it stopped moving. I'm absolutely soaked. It's freezing cold. I got this turkey, and it's huge. It's more like an ostrich than a turkey. It's huge. So I guess my coat off, wraps this turkey in my coat, and I'm shivering, right? So I walk up the lane to my Uncle Pip's, which is at the end of the lane. And I walks in, and he said, bloody hell, Bennett, he said, what have you been up to? I said, I got this Uncle Pip. He said, Where you got that from? He said, you got it out of that field, didn't you? I said, yeah. He said, I suppose you want me to clean it and pluck it, don't you? I said, could you? And he said, of course I will. He said, go in there. He said, the missus in there, she'll get you warm. Well, she'd got 4 boys. So she put me in the bath, redressed me, because everything was soaking wet. I'm sat there drinking tea and I'm by the fire and I'm getting warm. And Uncle Pip come in about an hour later. He got this turkey on this platter. And this thing was huge. It was massive. I've never seen a turkey like it. It must have been the biggest one in the bastard field. So he says, come on then, young Bennett. He said, let's go home to your dad. So I gets home with me Uncle Pip, and we get to the door and he says, oh, he said, you better have this turkey and take it into the house. So I got this turkey and he opened the door and I walked in with the turkey. And my dad comes out and he looked at me, he said, where did you get that from? He's just going to say something else. He looks at my Uncle Pip and something passed between them. It was obviously a look of some sort. He said, that's Christmas dinner there, isn't it, mate? I said, yeah. He said, well done, son. Put the thing down. And I'll tell you what, that's the best Christmas turkey we ever had. There you go, there's a story for you. This next story is about Victor. Victor is one of those people that once he's got an idea in his head, he won't leave you alone. So Victor wanted me to take him trout fishing. It's January. It is freezing cold. There's frost and bloody snow and it's just freezing. I said, there's nowhere we can go, Victor. He said, oh, there must be somewhere. He said, you must know somewhere. And I did actually know where there's a spring-fed pool. So half the pool I knew would be frost-free. So I phoned the farmer. I said, are you open, mate? He said, you joking? I said, no. I told him about Victor. And he said, well, help yourself, mate. He said, I ain't going to charge you. He said, just go and put the boat back where you found it. Leave everything as it was. You won't catch anything, but go and have a nice time. Merry Christmas. I said, cheers. So I phoned Victor, gone and picked him up. Off we've gone over to it's freezing cold. We get to this pool and half of it's frozen as I thought it would be. We set all the rods up and turned the boat over, got out into the boat to the edge of the ice and fished back towards where the water's coming in. So we've been fishing about 20 minutes and it's freezing. I'm talking, it's cold. My fingers are blue. I said, you had enough yet, Victor? No. He said, I'm enjoying myself. So I went fishing away. I said, we ain't going to catch nothing, mate. He said, don't matter. He said, I'm out here. He said, I'm having a nice time. So we carry on fishing. Not 2 minutes later, I've got one. Oh, I've got a trout. Hey! Get this trout in the net in the bottom of the boat. The priest that I used to kill these fish was a gift from a chap in a factory. It was solid steel, stainless steel. It got a grip on it and everything. And it weighed about £7. If you hit these trout too hard, their eyes used to fly out. So I took this thing out of the bag, smack, I've killed this trout. Put it in a bag, hung it off the rollock on the side of the boat. Starts fishing again. I said, you had enough yet, Victor? He said, no, I want to catch a trout. I said, look, you can have that one I just caught. No, I want to catch my own. I said, well, carry on then. So we're fishing away and I'm absolutely froze. Look at me, I've got another one. I couldn't believe it. I've got two. Anyway, I get this fish in, smack, in the bag. I said, I'm ready now, Victor, I've had enough, I'm really cold. He said, 10 minutes. He said, 10 minutes and we'll go. I said, all right, 10 minutes and that's it. So we've been fishing about 5 minutes. He said, I got one. I look around, sure enough, his rod's bent over and it's jigging away and he's got this fish and he's got it in the bottom of the net. It's about £4. It's a proper fish. He's got it in the bottom of the boat. He's picked my priest up. Right, now this is no word of a lie, right? Whether this trout knew what was coming, I don't know. But Victor's holding this trout, he's just gone to hit it. And this trout's moved. And he's hit his thumb. Oh, I started laughing, and Victor's got his thumb. Oh, I've broke my thumb. Oh, my thumb's broke my thumb. I'm just killing myself. I could not stop laughing. I said, let's have a look. He said, no. He said, I ain't letting go. He said, I'm not letting go. He said, oh, God. So I killed the fish and put it in a bag. I started packing all the stuff up, and we've gone back to the bank, and I've put all the stuff in the car and turned the boat over and put everything back to the way it was. And Victor's walking along the bank like holding this stuff. Oh, my thumb. Oh, my thumb. I said, let's have a look, Victor. He said, no. He said, I'm not letting go. So we get to the car, and I get him in the car, and we starts coming home, and I've got the car heater on, and he sat there. I said, how is it, Victor? And he's rocking backwards and forwards. He said, oh, it's broke. He said, I broke my thumb. He said, oh my God, he said, it hurts. I said, let's have a look, Victor. No, he said, I'm not letting go. So we pulled up to these traffic lights. We're about 5 miles from home. I said, Victor, let's have a look. I said, I'm not moving till you show me. He's took his hand off his thumb. Right? Just about there. The thumb is purple, but there's a white line there where he's hit it. It was about 3 times normal size. It looked pretty bad, to be fair. I said, do you want to go to A&E or do you want to go home? No, take me home, take me home. So I goes home, takes him to his house, gets his fishing stuff out the car, and he'd got a long driveway to his house from the main road. So I walked down to his house and knocked on the back door and walked in. And his wife's there, and I said, he's fine. I said, he's fine. I said, he's had a bit of an accident. I said, but he's okay. She said, what's that silly sod done now? I said, he's okay. I said, he'll be okay. I said, he's fine. We looked out the window, and he's coming down the path, and he's using these little baby steps. And he's almost in tears, the poor man. So he comes in the house, and he sits down in his favourite chair by the log burner. And he sat there, and she said, do you want a cup of tea? And he said, yeah. She said, what have you done? He said, I broke my thumb. She said, let me have a look. He said, no, I'm not, still want to let go. She said, let me have a look. So he went like that, and he let go of his thumb. And she looked at it, and she went, that's not broke. The poor bloke was crying, and I was crying from laughter, and I've had to leave him to it. Anyway, I saw him a few days later, and his thumbs were all bandaged up. I said, was it broke, mate? And he said, nah. He said, just bruised. We've got this fishing lake round where I live, and it's run by a chap called Stuart. And it's a lovely sunny day, and I'm walking round, and Stuart's lay on the bank laughing, and I get round to Stuart, and his underling is actually in the water, and he's bent over, and he's just laughing, and the tears are just dripping off his face. He's laughing so much. I sat down by Stuart. I said, what's the matter with him? He said, watch this. He said, Ian. He said, hit that post. In front of Ian, there's a post in the water. There's about a foot of it stuck out the water. Stuart said, hit that post. So Ian, he pulls this sledgehammer out of the water, It's a 14 pounder. It's a big one, right? He lifts this sledgehammer above his head. He's laughing. He went smack. He missed this post by about a foot, and all the water splashed over him, and he's just laughing. He can't stop laughing. I said, "Whatever is the matter with him?" He said, "Mate," he said, "he's just had his first joint." Ah, dear. There's a chap called Chris. Very good fisherman. Very, very, very good fisherman. Good friend. I'm going back a long time now when winter warm suits first came out. And this bloke had developed this suit made of sheepskin inside. So he'd asked Chris to trial this suit. So Chris said, "Yeah, okay." And the bloke measured him up, and he made this suit. Well, Chris tried it on he's fishing on the Sunday. Saturday night, he's tried this suit on. And the arms are a bit too long and the legs are miles too long. So what happened to this bloke's measurements? Nobody knows. So he goes out. He's had about 37 pints, 3 curries, fish and chips on the way home. He gets home and he's absolutely drunk, for a better word. So he thought, "I've got to cut the legs off this suit." So he gets the scissors out, both legs. So he cut these things off. Next morning, we get to the cafe for breakfast where we all meet to draw pegs for the fishing, and he's telling us about this suit. "I'm going to be the warmest bloke on the bank. You're going to want one of these within 2 weeks." He said, "I'm going to sell them or something." He said, "I'm going to be so hot, I think I'm just going to wear a t-shirt." So we drew our pegs and we've all gone out into the car park and we're all putting our fishing stuff on. And it's all quiet, we're all doing our thing, and all of a sudden we heard, "What the bloody hell?" We looked round and Chris Taylor stood in this suit. Where he thought he'd cut 2 legs off, he'd cut 1 leg in 1 arm. When I was a youngster, well, say a youngster, 20, 21, 20, I decided I want to learn jiu-jitsu. So we went to this meeting and where all these people were just starting, and we went out, me and my mate Malvin, we went out and bought the suits, put these suits on, and we was the business, right? We started going for these lessons and we're doing all the exercises and learning all the moves and all this sort of stuff, and how to throw people and all. You know, it's brilliant. We were really enjoying it. And we'd been going about, I don't know, 8 weeks, something like that. This bloke says, the instructor says, "Right, I want to split you into 2 teams. One that side of the room, one that side of the room." And he's gone along and he's give each one that side of the room one of these big tomato cane things. Right? He said, "Right," he said, "what I want you to do," I'm on the end because I'm the smallest, and the bloke opposite me, he said, "What I want you to do, I want you to run across the room and attack." Right? And he said, "Well, I want you to mean it." So this bloke says, "And I want you," looking at me, he said, "to defend." And he showed me the move, which was to cross my hands like in front of me. Now that sounds quite simple, doesn't it? No. So this bloke, he said, "Right, attack." So this bloke's come across the room, and dropped this thing on my hands. And this instructor looks at me, he said, "What are you doing?" He said, "I want you to attack." He said, "I want you to attack as though you mean it." So this bloke's gone back to his space. He said, "Right, now attack and mean it." He's put this tomato cane above his head. He's gone, "Ah!" And he come running across the room. He's gone fucking whack. He's hit me so hard, he's broken my wrist. Oh, I've gone down in a heap. Well, you can imagine the next 4 hours. A&E, plaster, x-rays, plaster from there to there. I never went to jiu-jitsu again. That was enough of that. Right, well, I hope you've enjoyed those few short stories. And look out for the next instalment, because I'm going to do another podcast very, very soon. Stay safe.